pleasure to introduce our final formal speaker of the morning. Terrie Kovacs is the Director of Talent Management, and she's in the Department of Human Resources and Talent Development. And she's been at the university a long time and has very good insights into these special topics that she's going to be covering today that are becoming increasingly more important. As you heard from one of our previous speakers, there are going to be training sessions offered for Title IX compliance over the course of the coming year with the new
I have a little introduction to it.
Great, thank you.
Now, is this on? I'm sorry. I don't know how to work it.
How's the sound?
Good? Okay. Okay, so last and final presentation, as Dr. Komanicki said, sexual harassment and other forms of harassment. I'm also going to go into Title IX a little bit, give you a little introduction, because I do think there'll be a lot more for you throughout the year. So the agenda is going to be the law and how it applies to you, the importance of paying attention to the work environment, and why perceptions and sensitivities matter. I have also addressed the policies. There's a lot of policy information going on here today, as we just saw in the previous presentation. So the sexual harassment and other forms of harassment policy, and the non-retaliation policy. And you can find those on the website as well. So the sexual harassment policy, the core of the policy is how the university is committed to an environment of, free of harassment, free of sexual harassment, and also so there's no barriers to education and people feel comfortable in their work environment and their performance. It doesn't affect their performance. So that's the scope of the policy. So of course, policy breakdown. This applies to faculty, students, staff, and anyone that's on the university. We have contractors, temps, anybody that comes on the university is subject to the policy. So other prohibited harassment, it is defined as verbal or physical conduct of an offensive, intimidating, or threatening nature. So this is and it's directed at one's sex, race, color, ancestry, religion, national origin, disability, age, military, veteran status, sexual orientation, gender identity, and political affiliation. I don't know if Joan went into any, did they go in? Yeah, okay. Sorry. So prohibited conduct, this is the biggest whatever we're looking at when something's going on. When we do an investigation or looking at a complaint into a complaint, it can happen of course during working hours, but it also can be during non-working hours. So there could be an event that the university is hosting, event that you're going to, if you have a student or a parent meeting, those kind of things. So it's business-related social events and conduct that occurs directly or indirectly through the telephone or electronic devices and email as well. So those, we're public records here, so anybody can come and ask for a data dump of emails if something's going on. Or even on your cell phones, if you have a university stipend for your cell phone, they can ask for, get a dump of your texts. So the laws prohibiting sexual harassment, this is what we base our policies on. So Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, the Equal Opportunity, EEOC, and the state. Every state has a civil service law too. Are you familiar with Title VII? Has anybody heard of Title VII or Title IX or anything like that? Okay. EEOC? Have you heard that terminology? Okay. So who is covered? Under the UT policy, it's like I said before, staff members, students, faculty, and anybody that's doing business with us. The federal law says it applies to all employers with 15 or more employees. So we know we meet that. So we know we're covered under that. And then the state talks about any person employing 4 or more persons, or any company employing 4 or more persons, which is us as well. So comparing the law, when you look at the laws through the UT policy, the federal and the state, you'll notice that the main difference that they talk about is preventing a work environment that does not feel right. That's being prohibited. You're not allowed. It's not letting you do your work at your best performance. It's not allowing you to go to the next level. Things like that. So here's our related UT policies. scope. Sorry, I have a cold. So the standards of conduct, so you'll be in both areas. You'll be in the standards of conduct for as an employee, and then also the student standard of conduct. So either one of those, and they're of course very similar. And then there's the equal opportunity policy, which I'm sure Joan went over with that. Then we have anonymous reporting line. So if something's going on, you see something going on, you're just not sure about, but you don't feel comfortable talking to somebody about it, you can call on the anonymous line. And it truly is anonymous. And we have folks that will talk about, they will not, one time, Lynn Hutt, she's our compliance officer. I'm not sure if she did anything. Okay. Well, she got a phone call or a person came into her office one time and was talking to her about a complaint, but they said they wanted to remain anonymous. So when she took it up to, at the time it was Dr. Jacobs, and he was asking, well, who's the name of this person? She would not reveal it at all because it speaks to your integrity, our integrity, if we reveal those kind of things. So then the compliance incident reporting for non-patient, and then the workplace violence, so that harassment falls under that policy, and then the sexual assault response prevention. That's through the University of Toledo Police. So understanding the financial issues. I kind of noticed some similarities, Dr. Pocott, with how we talked about financial and policies. There's just a lot of similarities in all the different kind of compliance issues. So you personally, managers and supervisors, and when you're in a lead type of role, can be sued personally. If you know sexual harassment or harassment was going on and you didn't say anything about it, the university, the Civil Rights Act allows for punitive and compensatory damages, so it's not just a little sanction. It can be quite costly. And then, of course, our reputation. So if we become known as a school that you go to and there's a lot of harassment or sexual harassment, things like that going on, that speaks to the reputation of the university, and, of course, then that would affect enrollment numbers. So some improper verbal comments. So I just did this talk to recruiters the other day, and they were talking about how they go into the high schools. And the high school students will kind of start saying stuff about, hey, if I go to the university, what kind of action is there, So I said you have to be so careful about how you respond to those kind of things, because you think you're trying to form a connection with that student, and they might feel, of course, flattered because it's the sexual harassment's in the eyes of the beholder, if you will. But they go home and they tell their parents, hey, the recruiter was really flirting with me or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. Well, then that parent does not like what was going on, so they can call in. Or if you're talking with a student and they're engaging in, whatever type of behavior, and then you start engaging with them, somebody around you, that person might not be offended, but the people around you can be. So you always just have to be on your toes and follow the core values. If you follow the university's core values, you'll be doing good. So, but here's some improper verbal comments that you might not realize. But even asking about personal or intimate questions from somebody, if they start asking you, you just want to stop it right there. Bragging about sexual prowess, making negative sexual comments about women or men based on gender. I won't go through the whole list, but so then improper physical conduct. So touching, jostling, bumping, blocking, leering or staring. Sometimes you get in an elevator, you're walking with somebody, and there's a difference between saying hi and looking at you, or between leering, especially if they're purposefully doing something. Indecent exposure, passing or posting sexually offensive materials. So sexual harassment can occur between staff and faculty, staff and students, faculty and students, and students and students. So pay attention to your environment. When are you not an employee or student of the university? Really never. How many times, when you're here, how many times the Toledo Blade will pick up on, somebody was leaving a restaurant and they had a couple drinks, maybe too many, and they got a DUI. That's in the paper. Or somebody overhears somebody else, harassing somebody, and they go, and next thing you know, it's in the paper. Or it's talking to parents, and then again, parents get like, I'm not sending my child to this institution. So that you just always have to be careful, always careful, and discover or Does the policy apply to off-campus conduct? Yes. Email and cell, of course. So paying attention to your environment. So as to what's going around you, because again, it's everybody's duty to report, and to everybody's duty to make this campus what we want it to be, a respectable institution where we can do research, studies, education, heal patients, all those kind of things. So these are just some ideas about, or some examples about, embarrassing or humiliating to the victim. So, somebody might be saying something to somebody, and they just don't realize that how they're coming across. Focus on the victim's work more closely than the other employees, or you pay attention to a student more closely than other students, and somebody picks up on that. Is verbally or physically abusing. And then also behavior that is clearly of sexual nature, of course, sexual comments, jokes or insults, sexual propositions, any type of inappropriate physical touching. So again, perception is in the eye of the beholder. Perception is reality. So one person may view sexual behavior as flattering, friendly, or funny, and another person thinks that's intimidating, hostile, offensive, and it's inappropriate. That's so even if the contractors are on site and you hear them talking to people and saying things, you want to say something to somebody, because that person that they're yelling at or saying things to might feel like they don't know what to do, and so they don't do anything, but then their school performance starts going down, or their work performance, anything like that. So it's always up to us to be paying attention and that perception. So again, you are responsible. Sexual and other forms of harassment are unlawful. So everybody, you're responsible to watch yourselves and watch what's going on around you. So we have the non-retaliation policy as well. So that is so that it encourages faculty, staff, students, anybody to go and report on what's going on. Again, you can do it anonymously, that's fine, but if you want to go to anybody that your faculty advisor, we have a list of contacts that will take care of that and do an investigation, and then you don't have to worry about retaliation. So somebody's mad that you went and told on them, so they're going to try to retaliate. So we have a policy that covers that, because having a non-retaliation policy encourages people to come forward. Encourage employees and students to come forward. So if one of your students comes up to you and he's talking to you about something, and you might in your mind think, this doesn't sound like harassment, this doesn't sound like anything big deal, you take their complaint seriously. Don't ignore or minimize, because to somebody else, again, it's their perception, their reality. So you can direct them to an advisor, or there's a website. I have the website on here that you can go to that has the forms, the complaint forms. But then let the human resources. We have investigators, faculty has an investigator, and so does student affairs. So they'll investigate if it's a harassment or not. Again, so take all complaints seriously, informal and formal. And the EEOC has certain time periods. So if the complaint isn't filed within 300 days after the behavior, then it won't get looked at. So that's why some people, they're him-hawing around, or they just don't feel like, I'm just not sure, I don't want this person to be mad at me, or this or that. If the time clock's ticking and it's past the 300 days, then nothing can be done. Externally. So again, support the process. Know the sexual harassment policy and use it as a guide to proceed. And it has all the steps. It's about 8 pages. That's why I didn't have a copy or anything here. But again, here's the specific areas that really are trained in helping with sexual harassment and harassment behavior. So Department of Human Resources and Talent Development, University Counseling Center, Office of Faculty Relations, Dean of Students, the UT Police, and then again the anonymous hotline. Okay, so Title IX. So Title IX is the Title IX of the Education Amendment of 1972. So this came in as another federal law that prohibits discrimination based on the gender of students and employees of educational institutions who receive federal financial assistance, and we do. We have a website, and this is the link to our website. But if you type in in the search on the main website and you type in Title IX information, it'll take you right to the website as well. Or if you type in policies, it'll take you to the policy website. So now there's a big campaign going on about the Campus Save Act. So that's what Dr. Komanicki was talking about. You'll probably have more seminars and workshops on it and information on. We're going to be doing a campus campaign. So it expands the 1992 sexual violence reporting and policy that they call that the Clery Act. And every once in a while you might get emails where it'll say UT Campus Alert, and it's from the probably Chief Newton. That's our duty to report of what's going on. It could be if it's just not directly on the campus, it can be around the campus. You'll see those kind of things. That's why you see them. So in March of 2013, they expounded the Campus Save Act, and it has 4 central components. It identifies to identify the institution's campus security authority personnel, create a campus sexual assault victim bill of rights, expand the sexual crime reporting on campus, and ensure that the college has standard operating procedures for handling incidents of sexual violence. And I think Angie's working on some of those right now. So the background information, the Jean Clery Act, this all started evolving more when in 1986. Jean Clery was raped and murdered in her residence hall, and so she didn't know the perpetrator, but it was another student. And then her death led to a national awareness campaign, and then those laws expanded. So what is consent? I'm sorry. So consent is an act of reason and deliberation. A person who has sufficient mental capacity to make an intelligent decision demonstrates consent by performing an act recommended by another. Consent assumes that a person has the physical power to act and can reflect and be unencumbered in exerting these powers. And to be consensual, there must be positive cooperation, and the person must act freely and voluntarily. So this ties into Title IX, but it also can tie into sexual harassment too. So when they do investigations, they're starting to, they ask a lot of these questions, and that's what they're really delving into. So dating violence includes any abuse, mistreatment, sexual contact without consent at any stage of the dating relationship. And sexual assault, these are the definition that comes from the Title IX. So it's rape, statutory rape, incest, sodomy, lewd or lascivious acts upon a child, oral copulation, sexual penetration, and child molestation. So the officers that we have here are Melissa Auberly, she's in Human Resources and Talent Development. Mary Martinez, she's in the Student Affairs, she's the Student Conduct Officer. And Kevin West, Senior Director of Faculty Relations and Inclusion Officer. So these 3 are our Title IX that we go to. So if you direct the student or yourself or another person to any of the other areas that I mentioned, they'll get filtered through Melissa, Mary, or Kevin, depending on which area it goes through. So does anybody have any questions or anything? Any confusion about it or anything like that? You probably just want to go to lunch. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Did I do it in 20 minutes?